CEO at New York Women Film and Television. We're an association of women filmmakers, editors, producers, and actresses. And I am also on the board of trustees of Latino Public Broadcasting, one of the funders of this film. And the film will be on Voces, the series on PBS. And I just want to welcome the filmmakers and the people featured in the film, and I would love for us to give them another hands of applause. I'd like to bring up Samantha Bravo. I would also like to bring up Janina Davis. Sebastian Martin. And of course, the two creators of the film, Steph and Ellen. Audience that worked on the production with the filmmakers. Anyone out there?
Translator.
Absolutely. So let's sit and have this conversation. First, I'd like to start with the filmmakers, actually. Could you give us a little bit about how you got involved with this subject area and what inspired you to make a film about this subject matter?
Hi everyone, I'm Steph. Thank you for coming. This film kind of went through a lot of evolutions, but Ellen and I have both lived in New York for a very long time, about 20 years now, and my family actually is from New York. New York City was the first place that they settled when they moved to the US back in the 60s. So, they found community in Chinatown. Part of the reason why, Chinatown was one of the neighborhoods featured. But, this is a place that we know has been welcoming to people since the beginning of the city's creation. And we've just been seeing it change over the last several years and several generations. We've personally experienced different forms of, landlord harassment and that sort of thing. But the more we started hearing about these cases, the more we realized how deep and systemic a lot of these issues were. So we wanted to look more at the root causes of these and not just, single out specific bad landlords. And then, maybe I'll talk more about the interconnectedness.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. Obviously each one of these stories could be its own separate documentary, but we really wanted to include them together to show that this is systemic. There's cause and effect to everything. The politics of who you elect determines the laws for what the landlords are able to do, also laws that prevent deed theft and rules for rezoning that affect communities. So once we met everyone, everyone's so incredible. Thank you all for coming. And we just really wanted to show how this affects everyone, affects the whole city. Also, separately, we were going to have a card on the screen just to direct people to more information. I don't know if that's still possible to get back up.
Well, I have to say, I feel humbled and honored to be a moderator on this panel. I have to start with Samantha. Your family was engaged, the Bravo family was engaged in a fight with the landlord for over 15 years. We saw you grow up, right? And take the landlord to the Human Rights Commission. And I have to say, during these really tumultuous times, to see a family take what could be a devastating situation and not only fight for themselves but fight for the community as a whole is so inspiring. This afternoon I watched the film for the second time and I couldn't stop crying because I was raised in Sunset Park on 41st Street, going to the pool at Sunset Park, and I went from that neighborhood onto college, doing many, many things, traveling the world, and I became the film commissioner of New York City because I also had parents who really fought for a better way for us. So I wanted to ask you the question, and I don't know if your father is here or your family's here. Where are they?
Right here. Yes!
You are so inspiring to all of us, the way you've made a difference. And I have to say, the Asthma Free Housing Act, given that it was passed because of your efforts, all New Yorkers owe you a debt of gratitude. So thank you. He's the kind of celeb I get really excited about. So tell us a little bit about, where you are now and give us a little bit of an update.
Thank you so much for the kind words. It really means a lot. And hello, everyone. Good night. Thank you so much for coming and watching the documentary. It truly means a lot that you all come and take time out of your day to come and learn more about the housing injustice that is going on in New York City. And I hope that it inspires you all to really raise awareness about the issue and understand that many families are still going through this. I'm very grateful that we were able to take over and have the power to fight back. And hopefully many families also feel inspired to do so. A couple of updates. I'm going to start off with my dad. Well, it's actually his birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday! ¡Feliz cumpleaños! ¡Feliz cumpleaños!
Feliz cumpleaños.
¡Feliz cumpleaños!
My dad is working as a tenant organizer at NHN, Puppy Neighbors, affiliated with the Avenue Committee. So that's a huge accomplishment. My mother, she is studying for her GED.
Yes!
It's a huge accomplishment for her as well. And she has one more test to go. And I know she's putting all her work in, and I know she will do great. And for me, actually, I am now a tenant advocate at the Avenue Committee. My birthday was actually today, so I feel very honored, and I really do. I took a moment to reflect, and it made me realize that the experiences that my family went through, it really was worth it to be able to be in a position in which I am able to represent people who went through the experiences that I went through, who are going through those experiences, to give them empowerment, to give them guidance. It really is a privilege to be able to still give back to my community, even though in our building, our landlord is no longer our landlord, not that landlord that was there. It's a much better landlord, very understanding, just a dignified, a landlord with dignity who treats us the way that we should have been treated all along. However, that's not the case for many, many families in my community, in many communities in New York City. And I really do feel very honored to be able to still give back in a different way. And that's a huge update that I have. My birthday was last week.
Well, a lot of things.
Yeah, so that's a huge update that I have. And I'm very happy that I'm still being able to give back to the community.
Thank you. Congratulations. Janina, from supermodel to landlord, property owner, to mother, daughter, to advocate, give us an update. It was, I have to say, soul crushing. I told the team I was unfamiliar with deed theft, had no idea it existed. And again, I was a former commissioner. I did not know that this is happening, and to the magnitude that it is happening. Tell us a little bit about what's happening now for you.
Yes, unfortunately, it has skyrocketed. It's an epidemic, more so than ever. So I met these developers 20 years ago, and it was a fight, and it's a bigger fight now. But with strength in numbers, we are coming forward. We are demanding the DA take on these cases. We're putting the pressure on the DA's office, the Attorney General's office, to say, you know, we have to do something about this. There are already laws on the books to prevent this from happening. So enforce the law. Meaning, the way you convey property is a procedure. So we're having all of these false instruments, false deeds, fake papers, documents, and people are not going over them. The right people, the county clerk, the attorneys, the judges, to make sure that these deeds are acknowledged, that they're authenticated, and certified. That's why we're having such a problem. So it's really not about new legislation. It's just enforce what's already the law. So that's what we're really speaking to, because to see this happening to so many families, especially elderly people that are going for treatment, like say chemotherapy or dialysis, and you have people looking at their properties, wanting to just waiting for them to pass away so that they can just pounce. It's it's disgusting. Other families are being evicted, arrested, and evicted for trying to stay in their own homes. So it's a lot, but we have many groups, like Samantha we were talking about, many groups. We have Equity for Flatbush, Save Our Properties, a lot of organizations that were coming together in Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, Clinton Hill, Williamsburg, where I am now. I just met an elderly man the other week, owned property since 2005 as well. He's blind and he needs assistance. So I will be assisting him because but nothing on my case because of the work that Ellen, Steph, the whole Slumlord Millionaire team has done. A lot of people have reached out to me, attorneys, architects, joint venture consultants, and they said, no, you still have a shot here. This is amazing. And the statute of limitations to go back to show this continuing fraud. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that you all are out here today to support, to learn about all of these issues that's happening in New York City and how we all have to come together and support one another. And we're making it happen.
Absolutely. If there's, and I have to put the plea because I always say, when I want something, there's someone next to me that can give it to me. I just don't know that person yet. So if there's anyone in the audience that can help Elena in any way, please come up to the team later on and let us know, because we need to change her circumstance. As a community, we cannot allow this to happen. It is unfair, unjust, when people, working class people, work so hard to own a property, to have it taken from them illegally. This just can't happen. We have to do something. And when I saw the film, I was like, this is the tool to help change the circumstance. I wanted to go to Elena Shen, is it? And talk to us a little bit. I wanted to say Kava, but it's Cave? Cab. Could you tell us a little bit of what you do in Chinatown? And we saw so much of it on screen, but tell us what you do and what you're up to lately, an update, if you will.
Hi everyone, my name's Alina. I am the organizing director at CAV. A quick thing about me, my family came to New York City in the 1980s and settled in New York City, Chinatown. They were garment workers. My mom was a public school teacher, now retired. And the only reason that they're able to stay in Chinatown and my grandma still lives there is because of rent control. And so it is part of my family story, but I imagine that it's part of almost everyone's family or community story too. And so I decided to become an organizer for CAV because CAV is 40 years old. It was founded in 1986, but in 2005, it experienced clarity of strategy that I wanted to be part of. CAV currently is 2 neighborhood-based tenant unions that organizes Bengali tenants in Astoria into Astoria Tenants Union, and Chinese tenants in Chinatown into Chinatown Tenants Union. And so I wanted to just say that some of the fights that you saw from CAV on screen, those campaigns at the level of the neighborhood, came about through a lot of hard-won lessons about earlier campaigns that were fought at the level of the building. And so right now, concretely, for the 4 developers that wanted to develop on the waterfront, we know at least one of them has stopped their plans. We're not, Charlie for a while. It's a blessing. And one of them has in 2024 defaulted on his loans, but a couple months later then refinanced it. And so I'll get into, if we have time a little later, the details of that, but actually that's all information for us, right? We're fighting for rent control, we're fighting for better housing, we're fighting for a dignified life for New Yorkers. There are forces, organized forces, that are fighting actively against that because their interests are at odds. And so one of the large groups that are against rent control and affordable housing and living with dignity are billionaire investors, and they actually act different. They're able to default on a loan and then refinance it and kind of just keep going like nothing happened. And so that's what we're observing, that's what we're gathering information from. And for that fight, we set it aside because we took the information from the outcome, and we are now in Act 2 of our medium-term campaign to win a 4-year citywide rent freeze.
I also did love your outfits. I kept on thinking, oh gosh, to support the organization, the orange outfits, if anybody wants to donate resources, well worth it for sure. Sebastian, tell us a little bit about Monica Ahmed's campaign, because we know you're the manager. I have to say, when I saw the flyers, I just kept thinking, lies. How do you can Xerox lies very easily if you have the money to do so, to send to every zip code. Tell us a little bit about the campaign and what you did and an update.
Sure. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. Moeda's campaign was very much representative of her community. She was a working class woman. She would have been the first Muslim representative in city council, and she would have been one of the first immigrants from her community to have a position of power like that. So super inspirational. It's very much a grassroots driven campaign that centered housing justice at its core, which I think is why we receive so much attack ads and independent expenditures from billionaires and real estate developers. And I think you said it aptly that in our system, very sadly, from the local city council races all the way to the federal races, it's enshrined, it's encouraged, incentivized for people to spend unlimited amounts of money on campaigns. It's actually totally allowed and encouraged. So you see a lot of dark money, a lot of private interests. Certainly in our race, it was a huge challenge. And like Momita said in the film, it was the most expensive city council race to date. But then they used that as a kind of a guinea pig to export those tactics, across the nation. And we very much see it all over the country in various different states and races. And we certainly see it now in our current mayoral race where there's tons of money being invested and thrown against a pro-tenant candidate and a lot of real estate money to support an anti-tenant and pro-real estate lobbying candidate. So it's very much present to date. But the fight goes on, and so as an update, Mumita's moved on into labor organizing, so she's still very much involved in political work in a different way. I was formerly a teacher and then became a volunteer for the campaign, and then eventually became campaign manager. So anyone could really get involved. I really had never worked in electoral politics before that, and then got totally sucked in. So I encourage everyone to volunteer and canvass and do your thing if you can now. And after the campaign, we didn't make it to City Hall, but I've started my own education nonprofit called Cambio Labs, and we introduce educational.
What is it called again?
Cambio Labs. We introduce educational programs and technology to low-income communities. We do a lot of work in low-income school districts, a lot of work in NYCHA, so we still work a lot with populations that suffer from lack of access to affordable housing and food and education, and we empower them through programming. And we're starting to activate more spaces for free education, access to mutual aid, and also civic organizing education. So that's also a way that we're staying political outside of kind of electoral campaign system.
Fantastic. And just for the audience, it's Cambio Labs.
Yes.
And if you can
CAMBIO.
do the URL to the website for anyone who wants to know.
Thank you so much. It's Cambio Labs at CAMBIO labs.org. Check us out, and thank you so much for your
For
support.
Hispanic public.
For Steph and for Ellen, just when you're making a film, I just wanted to know a couple of quick things for the audience. How long did it take you to make the film? What was your greatest challenge? Let me start with those two quick questions.
Okay, I'll take the first, and you can think on the second. The biggest challenge. We actually started talking to. We met Samantha and Fabian back in 2019. So that is when we first started thinking about the film and just started to talk to people. And obviously, right after that, the pandemic happened, so we had to take a pretty long pause. However, because we were speaking with people, we were able to raise money, and that is when we were able to bring Latino Public Broadcasting and PBS on board, which was huge. They were incredible partners the entire time. And then in 2022, we went into production. So that 2022 to now, I think, is the biggest timeline.
But the conception was 2019. Okay, I just love for audience to understand that independent filmmakers, there is a particular breed of people who, I kept on thinking when I saw the woman in Chinatown talking about, I hate to say this, but the rats who had their armies, and filmmakers, they have their army, they get an idea, and through the pandemic, 2019, through the pandemic, still were able to accomplish it so many times. How many times you get an idea and you just can't make it happen and you let it go? These ladies, that tenacity did not happen to them. They used it to make sure to get to the finish line.
And also quick shout out to Nicole, our amazing producer.
Hello, Nicole.
We love creative talent to be recognized. Stand up, Nicole. You take the second question?
Yeah, and Nicole's a local New Yorker as well, so this is really a passion project for all of us. I think one of the biggest challenges for this was, housing justice in New York is a giant topic. We could film forever. I think there has not been a solution or one solution to the housing crisis. So I think our biggest challenge was when to stop filming. We knew we wanted to make a feature film, and there's only so much you can put into 86 minutes of material. But we really wanted this to be a conversation starter for folks who may know nothing about the housing situation in New York City, may know a little bit. But we wanted it to be accessible so that people could, see what people are doing on the ground, like all these folks on stage, and then want to continue the conversation and continue the research and be inspired to get involved within their own communities and know that this is not the end point. This is definitely the starting point. And we're just very honored and lucky to have met you all during this process and to be able to stay up to date with your work that you're doing right now. And we encourage everyone to get involved with all of everyone's campaigns, and find out more information after tonight's screening. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is housing in New York City has been an issue since the beginning of the city's inception. Corruption has always been a thing. So the thing that we've learned the most is our greatest power is in working together and knowing that we're not alone in our struggles. So if we can look to our neighbors and find that support, then we can actually make some change to make a more livable city for all of us.
Understood. For the people featured in the film, I don't know. If a 2-woman team came to me and said they wanted to make a film and follow me around when I'm really upset and really hurting and eating too much chocolate and my house is really messy, I'd probably say no matter how credentialed they seem to be. How and why, if we can start with you, Samantha, how and why did you open up the doors and para el Señor, right? Your whole family is exposed. Even El Perrito is like having this dinner and he keeps turning around and I know he's looking at the filmmakers and he's like, what are they doing here again? So tell us a little bit about how you and your family said yes to that. Oh, sorry.
I think, I think the first thing is, I think us Latinos, we welcome with open arms. So it's like we're very much, we welcome, my house is your house, mi casa es tu casa. So I guess we already had that mentality. But it was also just knowing that we weren't the only ones going through that. There's other families who are going through much worse. What we went through was bad, but there's people who have been going through worse things for years, and they haven't used their voice because they're scared. So we knew that it was definitely something that was a unique experience. We didn't know that what the outcome would be, but we knew that if sharing our story and our experiences to someone who's able to share it to a wider audience or a wider community, if sharing our experience would raise awareness of what's going on in New York City, what millions of New Yorkers are going through, then it's worth it, and we're 100% down to do it. And it really just also was just to make people realize that this is a huge crisis and people are going through much worse. And I mean, just like you said, like the rats in the kitchen, like I'm sure that she's not the only person living in that apartment. Like there's probably other people in other apartments going through that as well. And it was just knowing that people are going to relate to our situation, and people are going to be moved to say, if they were able to get out of that situation, if they were able to find their voice and seek help and have the courage to do so, who's to say that we can't? And that's what really moved us, to know that we're inspiring people and that we're telling people that there is help and that you shouldn't be afraid, that you deserve to live in a dignified home. You deserve to come home without having to wonder if you're going to have hot water to be able to bathe yourself. You deserve to go to sleep in a cozy apartment and not have to buy a radiator and waste your money on that when you can just have heat going through your apartment. You deserve to go to your bathroom and not worry that the ceiling is going to fall over your head. You deserve to go to the kitchen and not have to see rats crawling around, And so it's just kind of what we all want to give that message, that you're not alone and that there is help and that you should seek help because you have your voice and you'll be able to get through that situation.
Thank you. Thank you. Janina, when the filmmaking team approached you, how did you decide to say yes in the end?
At first, it was a family in Crown Heights, and I read about this story, found it on the internet, and so many similar patterns that something just said, you have to go. And it's been maybe 5 years since my house has been sold, but I get the courage to go. And there's just the Crown Heights Tenant Union, which is an amazing tenant organization, just surrounded his family and did not allow them to get evicted. It was a 2-week process of from 24 hours block. You are not kicking this family out. And it really it impressed me, everyone coming together, the strength of the family, just being supportive. But I still, if no one knew my story, I'm just there supporting.
Mm.
And then I did share my story with one of the organizers, and she said, no pressure. But at one point, I said, no, I have to say something. Like, this happened to me. And that's one of the things that a lot of people deal with is the shame to talk about it. This happened to you, and I just didn't want to relive it. However, I knew that my story had to be told. I had to say something, and that's in the film where I'm outside of the building, and I finally got the courage to kind of speak out. And Steph and Ellen were there that day, and then approached me and said, would you be interested in telling us more about your story? And we're working on a film, and I said yes. You know, it felt purposeful for me. Like, I'm here for a reason, and I don't want to tell it, but it has to be told. And then so many other people would come out, like I said, and share similar stories. So this is something that was much needed.
I was taken aback when it was over 3,000 cases of deed fraud, but they had only taken 27 to actual court, and I just couldn't believe that fact in and of itself. And that's still the case now.
It's still the case, and that's one of the reasons we're putting a lot of pressure on the DA's office and the Attorney General's office, because if they do those investigations, people don't have to come out of pocket. I spent over $250,000 fighting for my case for 8 years. If the DA does their job, people can come forward. They don't have to worry about, I don't have the money. I saw the 1 and 2. The deed hearing, that hearing is draining her, but to keep moving. So this is part of the coming out and strengthening numbers and saying, you know, we need investigations going on here. And then lastly, Ellen and Steph know I would have some good days and bad days, and we would have something scheduled. I'm like, you know, I'm having one of those days. I don't think I can really get through it today. And I'm like, no problem. We'll reschedule. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate that. Okay, so they just worked with me, never any pressure, understood, you know, my mental health. You know, some days I'm good, other days I'm just not so good, and they really worked with me and helped me maybe feel, just sick.
Mm-hmm. Your strength and tenacity is palpable in the film, and given what you've gone through, you know, anyone would have more negative days than positive, and you're a real shining light of an example. I told the filmmakers, I don't know if I would be as nice as she is. I would think of really ugly things to do to the building when it was empty. I couldn't manage it. But you did, and you are. So for that, in Spanish we say que Dios te bendiga. We bless you because you're blessing us with the advocacy that you're doing to move forward. For the organizers, for the 2 organizers, love to hear, I guess from Sebastian, love to hear, what's the one strategy, political strategy that you learned in working on the campaign that you hadn't known before?
I guess I'll speak to the power, people power. You know, they say they have money, but we have people, and that was very, very true on our campaign. A lot of things that weren't in the film, like we operated out of the basement of a barber shop. It was very, very low budget. We had a lot of volunteers come in and work with us. Some really beautiful gatherings. We'd have like host picnics outside and have kind of empanada contests to rank them to teach people about ranked choice voting and really meeting people where they're at and engaging community and listening to their needs. I think that's where authentic organizing, you know, comes from, and that's where people power really comes from, when especially you're up against such huge forces and money forces. So I learned a lot as a grassroots organizer, and the power of our common humanity. You know, we had a very interfaith, intergenerational, cross-sectional campaign that I'm super, super proud of. And I think the reason why we were so excited about the film is coming out to memorialize, you know, some of that work. And also that film is the ultimate organizing tool now. It can be spread, and thanks to PBS and Voces, it's in all across the nation, and we know others can relate to the story. So we were very excited to kind of communicate that and share that out, and hopefully others will be inspired and organize afterwards.
Great, congratulations. Elena, I have to say, I just kept on thinking, I'll never forget this image now, every time I see one of those really big skyscrapers, of how you organized in the community, and you also let the community speak for themselves. Sometimes my mom was a grassroots organizer, and my cousin is one of the founders of something called the Young Lords. His name is Felipe Luciano. And so I understand grassroots organizing, and I kept on saying, oh my God, she just really empowers people to state their vision, to fight for their cause. And now every time I walk along the West Side Highway and I see all the skyscrapers, it will be completely different for me. I will not see the gloss. I will see some of the pain in the communities that we've lost because of your work. So I have to understand how, you know, as a grassroots organizer, what's the one tool that you just feel like after the pandemic, I learned this one thing that helped me?
That's really cool. I think that organizing is at its core about transformation. It's about believing that you as an individual can transform. We see that even in our young people who, for the first time, they're speaking at a rally and then they're emceeing like 2 years later, you know. And so it's about believing that you as an individual is capable of transformation, and through the act of many people transforming toward a shared purpose, you can build an organization that can then change the community that you live in. And if you are able to build a powerful enough organization, it can be a vehicle that then changes the broader world. And so for me, that's the principle of organizing, because then the world changes, the communities changes the people. And we end up having generations that are different than past generations, who believe more is possible and that they deserve more. And so that's something that I think has been my faith in organizing and organization. But the one thing I learned is that sometimes you have to really evaluate the kind of campaigns that you're doing and the kind of fights that you're having. Are they cyclical? Do you have to fight your landlord every year? Do you have to go to the rent guidelines board and ask for a rent rollback or a rent freeze every year? Do you have to fight every single developer that comes and wants to build a luxury complex in your neighborhood where there was a community center or a park? If you are evaluating your organization and you are like, yes, I am doing these cyclical fights, it actually takes every single bit of courage to decide that things need to change. And so that's what we did. We started as Chinatown Tenants Union organizing buildings, and that was some of our earliest fights: rent strikes, fighting evictions, fighting for better repairs. And those people won. The 2005, the people that were fighting won, and they're still in their building. But over time, we found that the building started to be gutted out, and there were luxury units where there once was a rent stabilized unit, for example. And so we moved to neighborhood organizing. The challenge that we reached in neighborhood organizing was a lot of things are determined by the city. The city has rules for what can be built and how. And so that is both an obstacle but also a potential of inflection point for our opposition, which are these investor billionaires. So then now, in Act 1 of our 4-year citywide rent freeze plan to get out of these cyclical fights, we're day one endorsers of Zoran Mondani. And he was flying in 2022, he was standing there testifying against Innovation Queens, a luxury playground that was coming to Astoria with us. And so we knew that there's a good chance that he wasn't going to save us, but he was going to help address and become a tactical point and maybe even an ally in the future fights to freeze the rent, to make sure that we're able to get the kind of lives that we deserve and continue to organize.
Thank you. I know we're being beckoned to the reception, but I did want to give the filmmakers 30 seconds each to say something to your audience before they get a chance to talk to you in the gallery.
I guess, thank you for coming. If you want to find out more about the film and our impact campaign, one of the things we want to do is really bring this film to all the communities throughout New York City. If you are a tenant organizer, please come up to us tonight or reach out to us on social media or our website, and we can organize a screening with you to have more of these discussions in other neighborhoods. And please check out, I guess our QR code is not up there. We have postcards that have a QR code that will send you to our site, and on that you can find out information about everybody on the stage, their organizations, or their fundraisers and the different things that they're doing right now.
And Janina, you mentioned it, but it is a really big deal. She has potential to reopen her case and actually fight for her home now, coming up very, very soon, and you just started a GoFundMe. So if anyone would like to support her, it's going to be a lot of legal fees, a lot of big efforts, but we're hopeful. You can also find that information on our website, Somewhere Millionaire Film, and we might send out a little email with a little update and the GoFundMe as well.
Absolutely. Well, what I want, and I'll say this, is I want to go to a party once you get your house back.
Yes. Yes.
And so we need everyone to go to that GoFundMe page. I will too. And housing is a human right, right?
Yes.
Housing is a human right. And so we need to make sure to use this film so that other people understand that. The last thing I wanted to end on is hope. Many years ago, more than, I don't know how many, I was in South Africa a year after Nelson Mandela was released. The community thought it was impossible, and it was possible. So when I saw this film, I just kept on thinking about when a group of people want to change something and they're brave and courageous and tenacious, it's possible. And that's what all of these people on stage are. So thank you, and come to the reception.
Vamos para la recepción. Hi. I want to get closer to them. Partial. Oh, really? Yeah. Maybe they all.
Read it and get some of the messages out that's like getting stuck. Oh. And I got it. Interdimensional, like straight, and we actually
One more. Beautiful. Thank you.
Ay, tú me lo estás. ¿Tú para quién trabajas?
Para mí mismo.
All of us. I want to get a close up. Hi. Keep it up, keep it up. Don't give up.
Say hi.
Great job, all of you. Great job. Closing the video. Hi. Say hi. This is the reception.